The ship moved slowly through the dark space, surrounded by broken metal and floating bodies. Captain stood at the window and looked at the destruction outside. Another human convoy was dead. Another group of her people had been hunted down and killed like animals. "How many ships?" she asked quietly. Checked his screen and his face became hard. 12 transport vessels, maybe 3,000 people, all gone. Closed her eyes. 3,000 more names to add to the endless list of the dead. It had been 40 years since Earth fell. 40 years since the Galaxy Council decided that humans were not worth keeping alive. They called it resource reclamation. They took Earth's water, its metals, its land, and they killed almost everyone who lived there. Now the last humans lived like rats in the darkness between stars. They hid, they ran, they died, and the Council hunted them for sport. Captain called out Young from the sensor station. "I'm picking up something, a life sign, very weak." Turned quickly, where? Small escape pod, drifting about 200 meters to our left. "One survivor from 3,000, said bitterly. "The Council is getting better at their work." "Was already moving, bring it in now." The crew worked fast. Within minutes, they had pulled the small escape pod into their cargo bay, ran down the stairs with close behind her. Elder Bora was already there, her old hands ready with medical supplies. The pod was small and damaged. Burn marks covered its surface. It should not have survived at all. Opened the door with a hiss of escaping air. Inside sat a child. He was a boy, maybe 7 years old. He had black hair and pale skin covered in dirt and dried blood. But it was his eyes that made everyone stop breathing. They were gold. Not brown or yellow, but bright, shining gold, like two small suns trapped in a child's face. The boy looked at them calmly. He did not cry. He did not shake. He simply watched them with those impossible eyes. "By the old Earth," Bora whispered, "what is this child?" Moved forward slowly, the way one might approach a wounded animal. "Hey there, it's okay. You're safe now. My name is, what's your name?" The boy did not answer. He just kept watching. They brought him to the medical room. Bora examined him carefully while and stood guard. The boy had no serious injuries, which was strange. The escape pod had been through hell. He should have been dead. "His body is healthy," Bora said, frowning at her instruments. "Too healthy. He has no wounds, no radiation damage, no shock. It's like the destruction outside never touched him." "That's impossible," said. "Many things are impossible until they are not." Bora lifted the boy's shirt and froze. "Captain, come look at this." Moved closer. On the boy's back, burned into his skin like old scars, were symbols. They formed patterns that seemed to move in the light. Did not recognize them, but something in her chest grew cold when she looked at them. "I know these marks," Bora said, her voice shaking. "I have seen them only once in the forbidden texts, the ones we saved from Earth before the end." "What do they mean?" The old woman looked up with fear in her eyes. "They called it the Wrath Covenant, a project, a weapon, something our ancestors created when they knew the end was coming. They said if humanity ever faced total destruction, this would be our answer." "A weapon," looked at the small boy. "He's just a child." "He is more than a child." Bora touched the symbols gently. "Much more." They gave the boy food and water. He ate slowly, still watching everything with those golden eyes. Sat with him while the others talked in worried voices outside. "Do you remember anything?" she asked him. "Do you remember your family, your ship?" The boy finished his food. Then for the first time he spoke. His voice was soft and clear, like a bell ringing in an empty room. "They're coming for me," he said, "and when they find me they'll wish they hadn't." Felt ice run down her spine. "Who's coming?" Before the boy could answer, alarms screamed through the ship. Voice came over the speakers. "Council patrol ship. They must have followed the debris field. They're scanning us right now." "Jumped up, get us out of here, full speed." They're faster than us, called back. They'll catch us in 10 minutes. This was how it always ended. Run, get caught, die, had seen it too many times. She looked at the boy and felt a strange sadness. They had just saved him and now they would all die together. But the boy was standing. He walked past her toward the door. Wait, she said, where are you going? To see them, he said simply. She followed him through the ship. The crew watched with wide eyes as the strange child walked calmly to the main viewing window. Outside, the Council patrol ship was getting closer. It was 10 times the size of their small vessel. Its weapons were already charging. Kid, get away from there, said. When they fire, that window won't protect you. The boy did not move. He stood with his small hands pressed against the glass, staring at the enemy ship. His golden eyes began to glow brighter. The light spread across his face, down his neck, over his whole body. What's happening to him? Asked, terrified. The Council ship fired. A massive beam of energy shot toward them. The boy raised one hand. The beam stopped. It hung in space like a frozen river of light. Then it turned around and flew back toward the ship that had fired it. The explosion was silent in the vacuum of space, but they all felt it. The Council patrol ship broke apart like a toy made of paper. Metal flew in all directions. Fire bloomed and died. In seconds, the ship that was going to kill them was nothing but dust. The boy lowered his hand. His eyes stopped glowing. He turned to look at with the face of any tired child. I'm sleepy now, he said. Can I rest? Could not speak. No one could. They stood frozen as the boy walked past them and found a corner to curl up in. Within moments, he was asleep. Elder Bora came to stand beside. Her old hands were shaking. What have we found? Whispered. Bora watched the sleeping child with tears running down her face. Hope, she said, or destruction, perhaps both. She wiped her eyes. Whatever he is, the Council will come looking for him now. They will bring everything they have. Looked at the boy. He seemed so small, so innocent, but she had seen what he could do. Let them come, she said quietly. Maybe it's time they learned what happens when you push humanity too far. Outside, the stars continued to shine over the wreckage of their enemies, and the boy named slept peacefully for the first time in his short, strange life. The Accord was the greatest station ever built. It floated in space near a dying red star, home to the Galaxy Council and the 12 species that ruled everything. For 1,000 years, they had decided which races lived and which races died. They had crushed rebellions, destroyed planets, and built an empire across 1,000,000 stars. Delegate stood in the great chamber and felt proud. He was tall, with a body like an insect covered in hard black shell. He had 4 arms and eyes that never blinked. 40 years ago, he had led the campaign against Earth. He had watched the human cities burn. He had heard their screams from orbit. It had been his greatest victory. Now someone was telling him there was a problem. Say that again, said slowly, his voice clicking like stones hitting together. Advisor Kell shifted nervously. He was shorter, with blue skin that was always wet and 4 thin arms that moved when he was scared. We have lost 17 patrol ships in the outer sectors, all in the last 30 days. Lost, you mean destroyed? We don't know. There is no wreckage, no signals, no bodies. The ships simply disappear. Made a sound of disgust. Pirates, rebels, there are always small problems in the outer sectors. With respect, Delegate, no pirate group could destroy 17 military vessels without leaving evidence. Kell pulled up images on the holographic display. We have tracked the disappearances. They all happened near suspected human refugee routes. The chamber became quiet. The other delegates leaned forward with interest. Humans, said Commander Riss, the head of Council military forces. He was reptilian with green scales and teeth that were always showing. Impossible. They have no weapons. They have no ships worth mentioning. They are barely surviving. That is what we believed, Kell said. But there is more. Our sensors detected a strange energy signature at 3 of the locations. We have never seen anything like it, and there is a biological trace as well." He paused. "It matches human DNA, but there is something else mixed with it, something we cannot identify." Walked closer to the display. "What are you suggesting?" "I am suggesting that the humans have something new, something dangerous." Kel brought up another image. "This energy signature is similar to readings we took from Earth in the final years before we completed our operation. There were rumors that the humans were working on a secret project, something they called a last resort." "Rumors and stories," Riss said with a laugh. "The humans are emotional creatures. They make myths to comfort themselves. There is no secret weapon. There is only a dying species that refuses to accept its end." Nodded slowly. "Commander Riss is right. The humans are vermin. We crushed their world. We scattered their survivors. Whatever small thing they have built, we will step on it like we step on all insects." He turned to the other delegates. "Send a larger patrol group to investigate. Find whatever is destroying our ships and eliminate it." "And if it is truly something dangerous?" Kel asked quietly. His insect eyes seemed to smile. "Then we eliminate it harder." Far across the galaxy, word was spreading through the human refugee fleets. It passed from ship to ship in coded messages. It was whispered in hidden bases and sung in secret gatherings. A child had appeared. A child with golden eyes who could destroy council ships with a wave of his hand. The Wrath Covenant was real. Hope was alive. Admiral received the message on his flagship, the Last Dawn. He was an old man now, with white hair and a face covered in scars. He had been a young officer when Earth fell. He had watched his home burn from the bridge of a fleeing transport ship. For 40 years, he had kept the largest surviving human fleet together, running and hiding and waiting for something he did not believe would ever come. Now it had come. "Set course for Captain's ship," he ordered. "Maximum speed. Tell no one where we are going." His second officer looked surprised. "Admiral, that will take us close to Council patrol routes." "I know." His old eyes were hard. "But if this child is what they say he is more important than any of us. More important than this entire fleet. I need to see him with my own eyes." The meeting happened in empty space, far from any planet or station. Small ship looked like a toy next to the Admiral's fleet, but came aboard alone, showing respect. Led him to where was sitting with Elder Bora. The boy had been quiet since destroying the patrol ship. He drew pictures on a tablet that had given him. Simple pictures of houses and trees and suns. Things he had never seen. Things that existed only in stories about Earth. Stopped when he saw the boy's eyes. His whole body began to shake. Tears ran down his face. Admiral asked with concern. "I knew," whispered. "I knew they were working on something before the end. The scientists, the generals, they told us to have faith. They said even if Earth fell, humanity would have its answer." He fell to his knees in front of the boy. "I never believed them. I thought it was just words to keep us fighting. But here you are." Looked at the crying old man with curiosity. "Why are you sad?" "I'm not sad, child." Took the boy's small hands in his old, rough ones. "I am grateful. For 40 years I have watched my people die. I have buried friends. I have listened to children cry for parents who would never come home. I have felt hate so deep I thought it would eat me alive." He touched his face gently. "They made you to carry that hate, all of it. The hate of every human who ever lived and died." "Is that what I am?" asked. "Hate?" Shook his head. "No, you are love. You are the love we had for our home, for our families, for everything they took from us. Love and hate are not so different, child. They are both fire, and you are the fire humanity has ever created." He stood and turned to. "The council will come for him. When they understand what he is, they will bring everything they have. We need to take him somewhere safe, somewhere he can grow, somewhere he can learn what he is and what he can do." "Where?" asked. Smiled for the first time in years. "There is a place A rogue planet drifting in the dark between stars. We built a sanctuary there in the early years. Scientists, soldiers, families, people who refused to give up. His eyes went back to people who have been waiting for him. Had returned to his drawing. He was adding something new to his picture. A small figure with golden eyes, standing beneath a sun that looked like Earth's. I remember them, the boy said softly. All the people who died, I remember their names, their faces, their last thoughts. He looked up at the adults watching him. They were so scared, so sad, but they hoped too. They hoped someone would remember them. Elder Bora wiped her eyes. And you do, you remember them all. Yes, nodded. And when I'm ready, I'm going to make sure no one ever forgets. Outside the ships, the stars burned cold and distant. But somewhere in that darkness, the Galaxy Council was gathering its forces. They did not know what was coming. They did not understand what they had created when they chose to destroy humanity. They would learn, and by the time they understood, it would be far too late. The rogue planet had no name. It floated alone in the empty space between star systems, cold and dark and forgotten. This made it perfect for hiding. The Council never looked in places where nothing existed. Beneath the frozen surface, humans had built a city. It was small and crowded, with narrow tunnels and recycled air, but it was home to almost 10,000 people. Scientists who had escaped Earth, soldiers who still remembered how to fight, families who had been born in darkness but still dreamed of light. Saw all of this through the window of the transport ship as they descended through a hidden entrance. Lights glowed in the darkness below. People moved through corridors carved from ice and stone. It was not beautiful, but it was alive. A woman waited for them at the landing platform. She had short black hair and tired eyes, and she wore a white coat that marked her as a doctor. Her name was, and her hands trembled as she watched step off the ship. So it's true, she said quietly. The project worked. Came down behind with an elder Bora. You know about this, about what he is. I helped create it. His voice was filled with old pain. 30 years ago, before Earth fell, I was part of the team. We knew the Council was coming. We knew we couldn't stop them with ships or weapons, so we built something else. She looked its golden eyes. We built a vessel, a child who could carry the memory of everyone we would lose, every death, every scream, every moment of grief and rage. We encoded it all into human DNA and waited for the right moment to activate it. You made him to be a weapon, said. There was anger in her voice. We made him to be a witness, replied. A living memorial, the weapon part, she paused. That came from the people he carries, 8 billion souls all compressed into one small body. When emotion becomes that concentrated, it gains power, power that can break the rules of physics, power that can destroy ships and stop energy beams. She knelt down to look at directly. You're not just a weapon, child. You're the last voice of a dead world, and that voice is very, very loud. In the days that followed, began to learn about himself, ran tests and scans. She measured his brain activity when he used his power. She tried to understand how a child could contain so much. But it was not all science and study. There were other children in the sanctuary. Most of them kept their distance, afraid of the boy with strange eyes, but one girl did not. Her name was. She was 8 years old, born in the sanctuary, never having seen a star or a planet with a sky. She had dark hair that she wore in 2 braids and a smile that came easily despite the hard life around her. Your eyes are pretty, she said to one day. Like gold. I've never seen gold, but I saw pictures. Did not know how to respond. No one had ever called any part of him pretty. Do you want to play? Asked. There's a place where we can kick a ball. It's small, but it's fun. Had never played. He did not know what fun was, but something in smile made him want to try. They became friends, showed the hidden corners of the sanctuary. She taught him games that children had played on Earth. She told him stories that her grandmother had told her, stories about blue skies and green trees and oceans so big you could not see the other side. I want to see an ocean someday, said, My grandmother said the water tastes like tears but looks like happiness. Tried to smile. It felt strange on his face, like wearing clothes that did not fit. But he kept trying because smiled so easily and he wanted to understand how. But not everything was peaceful. At night when slept, the memories came. He saw Earth. He saw cities that touched the clouds. He saw families eating dinner together. He saw children playing in parks. And then he saw fire falling from the sky. He heard screaming. He felt millions of hearts stopping at once. He experienced death after death after death, an endless wave of endings that crashed through his mind. He woke up screaming. His eyes blazed with golden light, and every piece of glass in his room shattered into dust. Minyu found him like that, curled in a ball among the broken pieces. Minyu was a young pilot, 20 years old, who had been assigned to protect. He had lost his parents during the fall and his sister to a council raid 5 years ago. He understood pain. "Bad dreams?" he asked gently, sitting down beside the boy. "They're not dreams," whispered. "They're real, they happened, I see all of it. Every person who died, I feel what they felt." Tears ran down his face. "There are so many of them. How can one person hold so many?" Minyu put his arm around the small boy. "You're not alone. We all carry the dead with us. You just carry more than most." He held until the shaking stopped. "But you also carry their hope, their dreams, their love. Don't forget that part." The next weeks were hard, pushed Admiral to use as a weapon immediately. "The Council is hunting us. Every day we wait, more humans die. The boy can end this." But refused. "Look at him. He's learning to smile. He's making friends. He's becoming human. If we push him into battle now, we might win the war but lose the child. And then what was the point?" "The point is survival," said bitterly. "No," his voice was firm. "The point is what we survive for. If we sacrifice everything that makes us human to defeat the Council, then they've already won." But the choice was taken from them. The Council had been searching for months. Commander Riss had lost 30 more ships to unknown attacks across human space. Delegate was becoming impatient. They traced energy signatures. They captured refugees and tortured them for information. And finally, they found the rogue planet. The alarms came in the middle of the night. Red lights filled every corridor. Admiral's voice echoed through the sanctuary. "All personnel to battle stations. Council fleet incoming. This is not a drill, they found us." Was with when the warning came. She grabbed his hand, her face white with fear. "What do we do?" Above them, breaking through the clouds of ice and stone, came the largest fleet the Council had ever assembled. 200 warships, 50,000 soldiers, enough firepower to destroy a planet. Commander Riss stood on the bridge of his flagship watching the frozen world below. "Finally," he said with satisfaction, burn it all, leave nothing alive." In the sanctuary, people were running, crying, praying, found standing still in the chaos, hands still in his. "We need to get you to safety. You're what they want, if we can hide you." "No," his voice was different, older, heavier. "I'm tired of hiding. They killed everyone I was supposed to love, my parents, my family, my whole world." His eyes began to glow. "I remember all of them now, every single one, and they remember what was done to them." He let go of his hand and walked toward the surface. Minyu tried to stop him, but just looked at him with those golden eyes and said, "It's time." Above the planet, the Council fleet opened fire. Beams of destruction rained down on the frozen surface. But before they could reach the ground, they met something rising up to greet them. A small figure, a boy, floating in the empty space, surrounded by light that shone like 8 billion stars. Had stopped running, and now the galaxy would learn what humanity's fury truly meant. Commander Riss watched the small figure rise from the planet's surface and felt something he had not felt in 50 years of war. He felt confused. "What is that?" he demanded. His officers checked their instruments with shaking hands. "It reads as human, Commander. A child, but the energy signature is impossible. It is larger than our entire fleet. A child, Riss laughed, but the sound was uncertain. One human child against 200 warships. Continue firing, destroy it. Every weapon in the fleet turned toward plasma beams, missile batteries, kinetic cannons that could punch holes through moons. They all fired at once, filling space with death and light. Floated alone in the darkness, watching the destruction come toward him. Inside his mind, 8 billion voices whispered. Some were angry, some were sad, some were afraid, but they all agreed on one thing. It was time. He raised his hands, and the universe held its breath. The weapons stopped. Every beam, every missile, every bullet froze in place as if time itself had forgotten how to move. They hung in space like stars that had lost their way, surrounding the small boy in a crown of stolen violence. On the planet below, watched through a viewport, her hand pressed against the glass. "My God," she whispered. Stood beside her, his face white. "He's holding their entire attack. That's impossible. That breaks every law of physics." "He's not breaking laws," Elder Bora said quietly. "He's making new ones. When you concentrate that much human emotion in one place, reality bends around it. Love and rage and grief and hope, all pressed together until they become something the universe has never seen." Turned his hands. The frozen weapons turned with him, pointing back at the ships that had fired them, and then he let go. The Council fleet began to die. Their own missiles struck their own ships. Their own beams cut through their own armor. Explosion after explosion rippled through their formation as 200 vessels discovered what it felt like to be on the receiving end of destruction. Commander Riss watched half his fleet disappear in seconds. "Retreat," he screamed. "All ships retreat." But was not finished. He moved forward, flying through space like a golden comet. Ships tried to run, but he was faster. He did not destroy all of them. That was not his purpose. He was not here for simple revenge. He was here to send a message. He passed through the fleeing fleet like a ghost, and as he passed, things happened. Weapons systems failed. Engines stopped working. Shields collapsed. The mighty warships of the Galaxy Council became nothing but floating metal, helpless and dead in the cold of space. Only one ship remained untouched, the flagship, Commander Riss's vessel. Appeared on the bridge without warning. One moment the space was empty, and the next he was there, a small boy with golden eyes standing among the terrified crew. Riss pulled out his weapon and pointed at its head. His hand was shaking so badly he could barely hold it. "Stay back, I'll kill you." Looked at the weapon. It melted in Riss's hand, dripping through his fingers like water. The commander screamed and fell backward. "I'm not going to kill you," said. His voice echoed strangely as if many people were speaking through one mouth. "I could, all of you, every ship, every soldier, every member of your council. I could end your entire civilization in one night." He walked closer. The crew pressed themselves against the walls, too afraid to move. "But that would make me like you," stopped in front of Riss. "You killed my world because you wanted our resources. You murdered 8 billion people because it was convenient. You hunted the survivors for sport because we were weak and you were strong." He leaned down so his golden eyes were level with the commander's. "Now you see what happens when the weak become strong. Now you understand that humans don't break. We don't disappear. We survive. And when we've survived long enough, we become something you never imagined." Riss was crying now, his reptilian tears leaving wet trails down his scaled face. "Please, please don't kill me." "I told you I'm not going to kill you," straightened up. "You're going to live. You're going to go back to your council and tell them what you saw today. Tell them every detail. The destroyed ships, the failing weapons, the child who stood alone against your greatest fleet and won." He turned and walked toward the viewport, looking out at the disabled ships floating like dead fish in the black ocean of space. "Tell them we remember every name, every face, Every child who burned when your bombs fell on Earth, tell them we remember and we will never forget. He looked back at Riss one final time. Tell them humanity is coming, and we do not forgive. Then he was gone. On the planet below, the survivors came out of their hiding places and looked up at the sky. The Council fleet was broken. Ships drifted without power, their crews alive but helpless. The weapons that were supposed to destroy them had been turned to dust. And floating down through the thin atmosphere came a boy. The golden light around him faded as he descended. By the time his feet touched the ground, he was just again. Small, tired, human. Ran to him and threw her arms around him. "You're okay, I was so scared." Hugged her back, his whole body was trembling with exhaustion. "I'm okay," he said, "I'm okay." Walked up to them slowly. She had tears in her eyes, though she would never admit it later. "What you did up there?" "I didn't kill them," said quickly. "The ones on the ships, they're still alive, I just stopped them." "I know," knelt down in front of him. "Why, after everything they did to us?" Thought about it. Inside his mind, 8 billion voices offered 8 billion opinions. Some wanted blood, some wanted mercy, some just wanted rest. But the answer that came out was his own. Because killing them all wouldn't bring anyone back. It would just make more dead people. He looked at who was still holding his hand. "I don't want to make dead people. I want to make sure no more of us have to die." Admiral approached with his officers. The old man's face was strange, a mix of triumph and something like sorrow. "The Council will send more ships. They'll come back with even larger fleets." "Yes," said, "they will." "And what will you do then?" Looked up at the sky, where the disabled ships still floated like warnings written in metal and fire. "The same thing, until they stop coming, until they understand that we're not going away, until they have to choose between peace and losing everything." Stood up and put her hand on his shoulder. "This isn't the end, is it?" "No," shook his head. "This is just the beginning." In the distance, Commander Riss's ship was limping away, the only vessel with enough power to crawl back to Council space. On board, a broken commander sat in silence, preparing to deliver the worst news the galaxy had ever received. The humans were not extinct, they were not weak, they were not victims anymore. They were coming, and nothing would ever be the same. 1 year changed everything. The news of the battle spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. A human child had faced 200 Council warships and won. He had turned their weapons against them. He had broken their fleet without killing a single crew member. He had sent Commander Riss home with a message that made every delegate's blood run cold. Humanity was coming. For the first time since the Galaxy Council was formed 1,000 years ago, its members were afraid. 3 species left the Council within months, refusing to be part of any future war against humans. "We watched the recordings," their representative said during the announcement. "We will not fight something that can do what that child did. The humans have awakened something we do not understand. We want no part in their destruction." Delegate was furious. "Cowards, you flee from a single child." "We flee from what that child represents," the representative replied. "You killed 8 billion humans, and somehow, impossibly, they are all still alive. They live in that boy's eyes. They speak through his mouth. They move through his hands. How do you fight a species that refuses to stay dead?" No one had an answer. In that year, everything changed for humanity too. The scattered refugee fleets came together for the first time in 4 decades. Admiral's Sanctuary became the center of a new human civilization. Ships were repaired. Weapons were built. Children who had grown up running and hiding learned to stand and fight. And at the heart of it all was. He was 8 years old now, still small for his age, still quiet most of the time. The scientists had finished their studies. They understood what he was, even if they could not explain how. He was a vessel for human memory, a living archive of everyone who had died. The power that came from that concentration of emotion was beyond measurement. But too, he was still just her friend, and that mattered more to than all the power in the universe. "I learned a new game today," she told him as they sat in the garden that the sanctuary had built. Real plants grew there now, under artificial sunlight. It was a small piece of earth reborn in the darkness between stars. "What game?" asked. "It's called hide and seek. You count to 10 and I hide and you try to find me." Smiling was easier now. "That doesn't seem fair. I can feel where every human in this place is." Laughed. "Then close your eyes and don't use your power, just be normal." Normal, what a strange word. Had never been normal and never would be. But he could try. The day came when humanity was ready to face the council again. Not with weapons this time. Not with war, with words. Ambassador was chosen to speak for humanity. She was a calm woman with gray in her hair and steel in her eyes. She had been a lawyer on Earth before the fall, and she had spent 40 years keeping records of every human the council had killed. Every name, every age, every small detail she could find. Her ship arrived at the Accord with an escort of 50 vessels. General commanded the escort, a young officer who had proven himself in the year of rebuilding. But the real escort was smaller, stood at the ambassador's side, wearing simple clothes, looking like any ordinary child. The council chamber fell silent when they entered. 11 species sat in their seats, watching. Delegate was there, his insect eyes full of hate. Commander Riss was there too, his scales still from the melted weapon. He could not look at. Ambassador walked to the center of the chamber. She carried no weapons. She made no threats. She simply stood there and began to speak. 42 years ago, you voted to destroy Earth. You called it resource reclamation. You said we were primitive, emotional, not worth keeping alive. Her voice was steady and clear. Today, I am going to show you what you destroyed. She pressed a button on her device. Every screen in the chamber lit up. Names began to scroll. Millions of names. Billions of names. They filled every surface, endless rows of letters representing endless rows of the dead. 8,400,700,063 said. That is how many humans you killed. These are their names, every single one. We recovered them from records, from memories, from the mind of a child who carries them all. The names kept scrolling. They would keep scrolling for days if no one stopped them. You thought we would disappear. You thought we would fade into nothing, just another species you erased from history. But you were wrong, she gestured to. This child is proof that humans don't stay dead. When you kill us, we become something else. Something you cannot control, something you cannot destroy. Delegate rose from his seat, his voice sharp with anger. Is this a threat? You bring your weapon here and dare to threaten us. Stepped forward. Every eye in the chamber turned to him. Every delegate felt their hearts beat faster. I'm not a weapon, he said quietly. His voice carried through the entire room. I'm what happens when you take everything from someone and they refuse to disappear. I'm 8 billion people who will never stop remembering. He looked directly at. You cannot surrender a memory. You cannot kill grief. You can only face it. He raised his hand and fear spread through the chamber, but he did not attack. Instead, he simply opened his fingers and light poured out. The light took shapes, forms, faces. The ghosts of Earth filled the council chamber. They were not solid, just images made of golden light, but they were detailed, perfect. A mother holding her child, an old man sitting in a garden, a young woman laughing at something her friend had said. A million moments of life, frozen and preserved and now displayed for all to see. These are the people you killed, said. This is what you destroyed. Look at them, remember them, because I will never let the universe forget what you did. The images faded. The chamber was silent except for the sound of several delegates crying. Ambassador stepped forward again. We are not asking for war. We are not asking for revenge. We are asking for a seat at this council. We are asking for the right to exist. We are asking for peace." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. "But understand this clearly. If you refuse, if you continue to hunt us, if you threaten our children and burn our ships, we will not run anymore. We have spent 40 years learning how to survive. We have created something you cannot imagine, and we are done being afraid." The vote took 3 hours, argued against it. Riss stayed silent, still haunted by what he had seen, but in the end the result was clear. For the first time in galactic history, humanity was given a seat on the council, not because the other species respected them, not because they had earned it through diplomacy, but because every delegate looked at the child with golden eyes and understood a simple truth. You cannot destroy what refuses to die. You can only learn to live with it. That night sat with on a balcony overlooking the stars. The Accord floated behind them, its lights reflecting off a million pieces of space debris. It was quiet, peaceful, strange. "Is it over now?" asked her hand in his. "Thought about it?" The voices inside him whispered their opinions. Some wanted more, some wanted rest, some just wanted to be remembered. "It's never really over," he said finally. "There will always be people who hate, people who want to destroy, but now they know. If they hurt us, we don't just survive, we become something they can't stop." He looked at and smiled, a real smile, the kind he had learned from her. "That's what it means to be human." Leaned against him, looking at the endless stars. "My grandmother used to say that humans were made of stars, that when we die, we go back to the sky." She was right. Lifted his hand, and tiny points of golden light danced between his fingers. 8 billion points, 8 billion stars. We never really go away, we just become something new. They sat together in silence as the universe turned around them. Behind them, the council continued its work. Ahead of them, the future waited, uncertain but no longer hopeless. Humanity had been broken, scattered, nearly destroyed, but they had survived, they had remembered, and they had become something the galaxy had never seen before. Not victims, not refugees, not a dying species clinging to survival. They had become a promise. A promise that some things cannot be killed, some memories cannot be erased, and some fury, when given enough time, can change the shape of the universe itself. Closed his eyes and felt 8 billion souls resting peacefully inside him. They had waited 40 years for this moment, for justice, for recognition, for the chance to say that they had existed and mattered. Now they could rest, and for the first time in his short and impossible life, could simply be a child.